my topic is going to be beyond human rights, Oromia, Ethiopia at risks of instability, political and politicide and genocide. So these are concepts that could be explained later on. Don't be scared of them, defined. So the presentation is going to contain research questions, argument methods, context, and prediction of genocide, politicide, and instability, and cases of Oromia and Ogaden massacres, cultural genocide, conclusion, why do you let them kill us? So the research question is, if human rights abuses occur in any country in the world with variations in magnitude, how can the patterns of human rights violations in Oromia, Ethiopia differ from others, other countries, or even differ within Ethiopia from Ogaden and Oromia across the Abyssinian or by current literature, the Amhara or the Tigray region. So, can human rights violations explain the actual and the potential threats to the collective survival of the Oromo people? Why are the cases of Oromia and Ogaden unique in Ethiopia? So, I'm just going to go on that. So, it's going to be hard going. You bear with me. Argument: viewing human rights abuses against the Oromo as a minor individual human rights violation incidents is inaccurate, misleading, and myopic, and even dangerous. The violence in Oromia, Ethiopia, can be seen as a collective punishment that singles out and persecutes the Oromo on a scale that is highly disproportionate to the members of the ruling ethnic groups. The way, comparing it to the way the members of the leading ethnic groups are treated. So, isolated cases of human rights abuse, human rights violations against Amhara and Tigray or Habasha groups do not, I argue, rise to the level of collective massacre that is taking place in Ogaden and Oromia. So the risk of instability, the other argument I have is the risk of instability, politicide, are disproportionately the highest for Oromia, Ogaden, and Gambela. Actually, I should include Gambela because it's experiencing a lot of intense massacres. So my research method, basically, I started to look at trends. I go from the general trends to particular case studies of Ogaden and Oromia, and you could call it the South. I rely on references of human rights reports by local human rights organizations, the Oromia Human Rights Group led by Dr. Trevor Tuma here, and then the Human Rights League of the Horn of Africa, and then Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and others in my personal observations and judgments. So I do interpret those sources to kind of make sense out of them to see what can happen or is likely to happen. So context, actually, a lot of the presenters before me have done a lot of job on providing a deep background to what I'm going to do, so I'm not going to dwell on the context part of it. The land issue by Dr. Makuya Bulcha is the core issue that's at the core of the conflict. The context, just to give you a brief outline, since the state of Oromia fell under the control of Ethiopia, first by Amharas and then now by Tigray elites rule, since the last half of 19th century, there has been an ongoing conflict between the Oromo have lacked political power and proportionate representation as a result of the conquest colonization. So the ongoing intrastate conflict since 1973 with the OLF is also the context in which we're going to view how this actually goes beyond human rights. So the OLF is a movement whose goals are to emancipate the Oromo people from Abyssinian colonialism and exploitation, and to facilitate the Oromo people's right to self-determination. This is from the OLF mission. There has been an asymmetric military resources between the TPLF, EPRDF, and the Oromo Liberation Front, as many of you already know. So this context of ongoing conflict between the OLF and ONLF on one side and the Ethiopian government on the other side has brought about a situation where the identity of a whole group of people is equated to the identity of a political organization that represents them. So Oromos are equated with the OLF. Every Oromo is targeted for being a member of the OLF for extermination, and on the pretext of feeding, hiding them, or giving them information about the whereabouts of the occupying state can, so this person is affiliated with the University of Maryland Center for International Development and Conflict Management. So she does look at the issue of genocide and politicide and what it means. Genocide and politicide are defined as the promotion, execution, and or implied consent to sustained policies by governing elites or their agents, or in the case of civil war, either of the contending authorities that are intended to destroy in whole or part a communal, political, or politicized ethnic group. In genocide, the victimized groups like Oromo, Ogede, are defined by the perpetrators primarily in terms of their communal characteristics. In politicide, in contrast, groups are defined by primarily in terms of their political opposition to the regime and the dominant groups. Like, for example, the group run by the Oromo National Congress or the Oromo Federalist Party, they are politicized, or they're not genocided, but they're politically killed, or simply put. So the trends in genocide and politicide in Ethiopia for the country risk for 2011 shows that Ethiopia ranks the 6th. This is higher than the Democratic Republic of Congo, known for very bad and intractable conflicts. And then it's higher than for the score of Somalia. So we are actually at much higher risk of genocide and politicide than any regional country, including Somalia. And this is a world rank. It's not just like an African thing.
So in Africa, Ethiopia is number 1.
Yeah. So if you
Sudan is higher.
Let's go back. Previous. So Sudan is actually higher than Africa. So only led by Sudan. So
The second.
Whose figures are these, Habtamu?
sorry.
Whose figures are these?
These figures are computed by Barbara Harp, actually from Center for Conflict Management and Resolution. Yeah, it's from the University of Maryland. So moving on next, in terms of the highest estimate of risk for instability, another variable that people are considering these days. So the rank again is like one of the worst countries worldwide. It is the 6th rank, and only in amongst really conflict top, Afghanistan, Congo. If you look at this country, there are actually genocidal places, or actually cases of ongoing conflict. So in any case, we're gonna look at, on that background, we're going to look at the case of Ogaden and Oromia, and Gambela for that matter. The general country trend misses the regional details. The highest risk scores for Ethiopia that were calculated don't tell us what's going on in terms of like, which region is actually at risk and what drives those scores up, you know. So my point is like the Oromia and Ogaden cases drive the scores up, although the authors were that explicit in the arguments. As we all know, I'm assuming, the Ethiopian Defense Forces follow scorched earth policy. Ethiopian troops are forcibly displaced entire rural communities in the Ogaden villages, setting villages ablaze, on fire. So that these are facts that were reported by Human Rights Watch. So I'm saying this is a unique case because I haven't come across any village who was razed to the ground in Tigray by the Ethiopian Defense Forces, if it's a national force that uses, or for that matter, I haven't come across a case where the Ethiopian Defense Forces actually razed the whole village to the ground in the Amhara region. I'm not saying individual cases of human rights don't exist in those regions. I'm just saying the degree is different. So the intention of carrying out those activities are actually clearly defined by ideologies of the state. Primarily, people have talked about revolutionary democracy before. The other documents that justifies this is Hizbawi had published in 1989 by the Ethiopian People's Democratic Revolutionary Front, controlled by the TPLF. So according to this document, this document establishes who to target, essentially. Of all the people, over 70 nationalities, it clearly defines in a national document a single group, Oromo, a country with nationalities over 70 or something. So this singles out the group. So it says, in order to have a lasting solution to our problem, we have to break narrow nationalist tendencies in Oromia. We have to fight narrow nationalism to bitter end, to smash it in a very decisive manner, fighting higher intellectual and bourgeoisie classes in a very extensive and resolute manner. The standard bearers of narrow nationalism are educated elite and the bourgeoisie. We must be in a position to eradicate all narrow nationalists. So what we get from here, if you pay attention to words like, does it have a light on it?
The red button.
In the middle.
So right here, you have lasting solution. These are terminologies that are characteristic of genocidal regimes, like the Holocaust in Germany, before they eliminated the Jews. Basically, lasting solution is like, and the category of narrow nationalism and nationalists is not limited to just the Oromo intelligentsia, but it goes beyond that to ordinary Oromo peasants, as current trends suggest. So I actually quote very conservative figures from Dr. Truman's report on killings and disappearances in Ethiopia, in Oromia. So far, over 4,000 killings have been reported. Let's say, for the sake of it, 900 people have been disappeared, because we know that the figure is totally, very unfair to what's going on. That's what's currently available. We can't make things up. So the figure is good because so far with the only coherent numbers that we find aggregating what's happening to the Oromo is this number, unless we pull sources from different materials by human rights organizations. So there's a credit that goes to the Oromia support group. So this is by no means representative of what's going on. These victims are mostly the most commonly labeled OLF members or supporters. Victims are not limited to Oromo intelligentsia. Ruling elites think killing Oromos is the final solution, just like the Nazis did during the Holocaust. So collective punishment is actually the term that the Human Rights Watch uses. It's a very common trend. A lot of people, I take issue with reducing what's going on in Ethiopia. It's good to look at it from human rights perspective, but because if you want to elevate this further, one can actually make a case of genocide for a few people. Actually, Anyuan, for example, you have that happened in 2003 and so on. So, and then whenever it's going to happen, it can be made. So 99% of Ethiopia's prisoners speak Afan Oromo. When I was here yesterday, he famously spoke it in Virginia at a meeting. So this figure, again, Sir Siara is a former defense minister who became a dissident after the split between TPLF following the, I think the 2001 events over the Ethio-Eritrean war. So over 25,000 Oromo political prisoners exist in Ethiopian prison systems right now, and sometimes whole villages are beaten up just for being Oromo, according to Negaso Bujada, as Dr. Mohammed quoted, saying, farmers, the new trend of land grab that Dr. Makuya pointed to actually is a very, very threatening one, that individual cases of shooting people or jailing them or putting them somewhere. This is very dangerous. Evicting farmers by millions and leasing lands to land grabbers. So far, over 3.6 million hectares of land have been leased, according to figure that we see. So man-made famine and food insecurity kill millions. Remember, you don't have to kill people to kill them, like literally by shooting them with guns. You could starve them and make them die. So if you're actually starving, if the famine concentrates in a single region or a couple of regions, there is a situation of isolating and using that as a weapon of war or as a genocidal weapon against those targeted groups. So resettlements that is not consented to, it's very common. We all know that. So we could look at the cultural aspect of the potential risk of genocide in Oromia. Potential and actual, actually. It's not just the potential, it's happened. So the Ethiopian government has outlawed, destroyed, and banned numerous independent Oromo civic and political organizations over the last 20 years. Ethiopia's most recent actions of arresting the leadership of the Macha and Tulama Association and the banning of Wakefana, the monotheistic African religion, constitute acts of cultural genocide, in my opinion. Afan Oromo, the Oromo language is banned from use on the national television since 2008. We all know that it's not on ETV anymore. So it's in the process of being banned in the school systems in Oromia. This is another aspect of culturally isolating and targeting the very core of the identity of the people at large in the name of fighting oil. trend of increasing Oromo refugees worldwide indicates that thousands of social and family bonds are being shattered. This is very highly likely to damage the very fabric of the Oromo society and other people who are getting exiled. So these cultural cases show us that something extraordinary is happening that's beyond human rights. So with that in mind, what I was just trying to do was just trying to map how actually, if you add everything up, the land grab, the human rights abuses, the cultural aspect of it, the military campaigns, the land lease and all of that, it's not just ordinary case of isolated incident of human rights. It's not a type of human rights abuse that can happen to an ordinary, for example, Tigray, you know. So this is by way. How do we know that? We have the data, and we have the intent, the statement of intent. So in this context, everybody knows that crisis is happening. We know the larger community knows, the international community knows that Ethiopia ranks the highest in risks of genocide, politicide, and human rights violation. But nobody's taking action. I can't say nobody's taking action, but who are the international community? What are they doing? So disregarding the strong predictions that show Oromia, Ethiopia ranks the highest on the ledgers of instability, politicide, and genocide, the international community has failed to carry out its legally sanctioned responsibility to protect. This is another issue which it can be defined again against the Anuak and the Ogaden peoples from the violence of the Ethiopian state. So R2P Garoma yesterday referred to it. It's a document that in cases of war crimes, genocide, and massacre, where a government or a state military is responsible, the international community is expected to arrive on the scene and help the people. But that's not happening. Not acting in this dire situation to stop a country to whom the West gives significant foreign aid amounts to endorsing the genocidal policies of the Ethiopian state. For the US and the EU to continue to ignore the plight of the vast peoples of the Empire South and to continue to give free passes to a regime that terrorizes its own people under the pretext of maintaining an alliance against terrorism in the Horn of Africa will be a futile exercise in the long run. The Oromo people are friends with the American and the European peoples and governments, and they deserve to be heard alongside other Ethiopians. So it's important to dispel the received wisdom that somehow the Tigrayan leadership in Ethiopia is the only dependable Western ally in keeping America safe by keeping Islamic extremism at bay. In the Horn of Africa, you know, Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda, and other forces that the West are interested in containing. So we're all opposed to that. The Oromo have over 5 centuries of the history of being a bulwark, a firewall against the expansion of both Islamic and Christian extremism in the Horn of Africa. Had not Providence, for example, according to John Crawford in 1860, had not Providence propelled the Oromo forward from the interior in the 15th century, the theory and the proselytizing Islam could have overrun equatorial Africa from east to west as they once threatened to overrun Europe. This is a very controversial quote, but I just wanted to demonstrate, you know, it's in no way meant to offend contemporary Christian. I'm just referring to how the Turks were stopped by the Oromo at that stage, and the expansion of the other extremist forces were stopped. So it's a mythology that actually our movement is a secular movement. Our scholarship is secular. So we need to be heard. So this shows Oromo have a long record of playing buffer or stabilizing roles even in times of jihad and crusades. Thus, it's impossible to achieve security and stability in the foreign without empowering and protecting the Oromo unity to help them continue to do what they are best at, checking extremism and fighting for human liberty for everybody for that matter. So I just wanted to make a disclaimer that I am not, I'm making what I'm making here targeted at the system. I have no hatred against individual Amharas and Tigrayans, and I have respect for all people. With that, I would open this up for more questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. A question for Dr. Truman.
Yeah, well, it's quite. Thank you very much. I enjoyed that paper very much. I and Mercuria, in fact, we spoke at a conference of the International Association of Genocide Scholars, and I attended 2 more conferences of that group and spoke at them, trying to raise or to discuss the possibility of what's happening in Ethiopia as whether it is genocide or not. And the consensus view of these genocide scholars was that although there are features in common, it could not be classified as a genocide per se. What is, although I've got documents that I've written that mention the word genocide in them, but the experts say that what's happening against the Oromo is not classifiable as genocide. However, Genocide Watch, Greg Stanton's group, have classified what happened against the Anwar in Gambela as genocide. And Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have classified what's happened in the Ogaden as crimes against humanity and war crimes. So I think if we stick with that, then we cannot be criticised for over-egging the pudding, overstating the case. As somebody said once at the Genocide Scholars meeting, if you say everything is genocide, then nothing is genocide. And it's important to understate the case, but be persistent and keep saying that these mass killings and whatever.
What did they say is missing?
It's just the extent of it in terms of the Oromo thing. I gather. I wasn't actually given reasons, but I submitted a lot of documents to some experts, and they came back and said, well, no, we don't think you can really count this as genocide. Second point is that your emphasis on this importance of a card to play as the Oromo being a stabilising influence is a very good point. That is one of the best cards that we have to play as Oromo, or promoting the role of the Oromo in the Horn of Africa, because they're a mixture of both, and neither have been extremes, as you say. And what we've seen with the TPLF invasion of Somalia is the growth of Al-Shabaab, just like we saw the growth of Al-Qaeda with the US invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq. So yes, I think that is a card that we want to play in the international community. Just saying, well, if you want things to get worse, support the TPLF. If you want it to get better, support the Oromo.
Yeah.
And
One thing I think just to yeah. You want to respond? Okay.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely, I'm not trying to overrate the case, but what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to show how insufficient the definitions in the standard genocide scholarship is not enough to cover the cases of indigenous people, like the Oromo or the Anuak. I don't know on what basis you could determine what rises to genocidal levels. Are you looking at numbers or physical violence? I don't think, according to me, physical violence counting the dead is not enough to I still think, like, I take your point, but I still think a case can be made to pursue this further, because there's a guy who actually says, Damien Short in 2011 argues that for indigenous people, the scholarship that exists on genocide right now doesn't allow people to pursue other avenues, because it defines genocide very narrowly in reference to only physical violence of death of millions and things that happen overnight. How do you account for, like, you know, systematic things that, like, land grab, where your existence as a people actually completely tied to that land, and if that land is taken away from you, you're not going to survive. You're going to either be a slave or you're going to die. I mean, I can understand that. I'm not exaggerating, but that's my belief.
Just one follow-up on that.
I have a follow-up to
yeah, I'll give you. I think as the scholarly work that we are doing is not only the current level of human rights abuse that raises to the level of genocide. What I think is important also in his presentation is the potential for that, the potential for genocide. If we look at all the precursors of things that has led to Rwandan genocide, all the things are all in the card. They are going towards that, but we're not saying, yes, the level of human rights abuse. I mean, when I was sending out these questions for guiding the papers to be presented in this conference, I said, what level of human rights abuse can be to accumulate together and say this it's a genocide? So I mean, I think both of you were saying, you may say, okay, looking at the whole everything, and I think still it's a genocide, and you may say, well, we have to be careful because we may be the crying wolf, and that we may reach to that level. But I'm saying both of you can agree, if you are actually looking all the things that you are looking at potentially, not now, but we shouldn't be saying when it is genocide, when we turn into like Rwanda, shouldn't be, if we are writing research papers, then we are describing the situation. But we should be forewarning for policymakers. Prevention, so that preventions are in place. So that is the service that I think intellectuals they have to provide.
Dr. Hamza, I have to leave, but can I just make a brief comment, sort of follow up to what you were saying also?
Okay.
I apologize, Professor Marco.
No, it's okay.
I just have to.
No, I've been talking a lot.
Okay.
I think, I don't know how many people here are paying attention to the buzz in the Ethiopian diaspora media, but it seems to me that there is a renewed interest in this genocide. Genocide is almost becoming a buzzword recently, where we are seeing cases of videos running around YouTube. You can Google it on YouTube, OLF genocide in Ethiopia, and look at those things. There's certainly an interest in the word genocide in Ethiopia generally. But I think, like Dr. Truman was saying, we need to be really careful. I think the Oromo has enough issues to say, look, we are being harassed or oppressed, and you can make a case without necessarily falling into this genocide. Just sort of following up on what Hamza was saying, the first line of defense Mallas uses for staying in Ethiopia, continuing to rule Ethiopia, is, if I go, this is going to be a genocide. It's going to be a Rwanda-like situation that we're going to have. And that's essentially what he did in 2005 after the election inside. I think, I'm not saying you are wrong or anybody is wrong, but I think if the goal here is to appeal to the U.S. or the West, which you point out in your concluding remarks, the U.S. should rethink, redefine their role, their relationship with the Ethiopian regime. I think it is a better argument to advance as Oromo can play sort of like a stabilizing role, not saying, look, the genocide is going on in Ethiopia, which of course, as Mallas would say, if I go, genocide is kind of going to come back. The Amaras would say, look what they did in Albagugu, look what they did in Badano. The Oromos or the OLF is going to come back and massacre all of us. So I think you have to look at both sides of the argument and
I think that's a good point.
Yeah, well, anyway, this is a debatable, controversial subject. We're at in Ireland on this. I wrote a long article on genocide. The target is genocidal killing and state building in Ethiopia. And that article or that paper was to be published in the journal of, the journal that this group are, yeah. But they told me to cut down the size. I said, no, and it is published in African Sociological Review. The Oromos are not, don't know about that. It's 52 pages long. That is why it was cut down. And I'm going to put it into a book, with other articles. I have debated the theories. I have read a lot of literature on genocide. And one cannot shy away from using the word genocide. Genocidal killings, the literature has different concepts, but related, very much. Using genocide, the word is there always. And the Ethiopian case is clear, historically at least.
Yeah.
But now when they came to Gambella, they used genocide for 400 people were killed. Of course, that is genocide for me. And when the Oromos are killed in tens of thousands, they refuse to do that. The intent is, as you say, intent is counted in the genocidal, in the literature on genocide. The intention to kill, genocide by attrition, which means by hunger, all those are combined to make the Ethiopian state a genocidal state. You can discuss that. It's how you argue it. You should not shy from, from it, but you have to be convincing. Evidence must be there. And I think Habtamu has come very well, long way in describing what is happening, and this is a good paper, but it has to be refined. That's all. It's really a good paper, and I'm really very happy that all these papers that are presented here are so mature and so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
So this is look at the literature. You have looked at the literature. Barbara Arfino here, and all these people are working on that. I know them. And refine this paper and publish it, and it's very good.
Yeah. By the way, in 1980, you mentioned Hungary, that the whole community, by voicing the right to eat. And if those of you who are in Addis in the last days of Mengistu Haile Mariam, the decision to get out of Tigray, when they said he basically came in Abiota Dawavai in the national speech, saying it did like the national accounts when I was working for the planning ministry, like national account. What is coming from Tigray? What are we giving to Tigray? There's like a silly cost-benefit analysis, and just say we should just leave them get out and leave the whole thing so that they can starve. And by the way, we are not letting international community also to bring anything. By then, Tigray was in a kind of a drought situation in 1980s, as we all know. So it's kind of, you can categorize that. That is, from Mengistu's point of view, it was genocide to the whole region. But now it's unfortunate that you can look at it, and that was 1980s. Now you have in 2011, 2010, we have it in the south, which is the traditionally fertile areas now starving. You can now do the same kind of calculation. Any?
I'm question actually. I'm brief. I'm just putting the question forward. So, from the lecture, for example, when you stop somebody from working your basic rights, say you eat bread in the sweat of your faith, so they don't let you down as you say something. This thing happened to my family personally. So I'm speaking from personal point of view. While ago, Dr. Muhammad mentioned Kumbi from Jergo, and they were collecting money from these employees. He used to work with one of my relatives, the colleague. So he said he doesn't want to pay that and didn't want that doing. They follow him up, he drives taxi at night, and at that time I had the baby, the daughter, and the people came to visit him from Obbo. They went to the bar and they went home around 9. So they wait there and kill him. So the Tigrans are systematically avoiding people not to work. The harass who said this happened to one of my family members who was a teacher, and they follow him, they harass him. Sometimes these people come as a crazy. They dress up as regular crazy, but they're agents. So how many has to die to say it's genocide? I mean, I know genocide, but I'm positive. I went to the definition of this genocide because systemically, if you look at how people can look at water, they're doing this and that, systematically many die. So to label genocide, how many has to die? And for personally, I call this an incomplete type of genocide. That's what in my mind, but I need explanation of that.
Do you want to respond to the comments?
Or Mr. Tuma or Mokura can answer. Well, not only you, anybody. I mean, I'm puzzled with these words.
The definition in the UN Convention is with intent to destroy in whole or in part. A group defined by, and then its various characteristics. And it's how you define in parts, really. And you're thinking about the Anwar, it was more than 400, it went over 1,000.
1,000 later on, yeah.
But that was a much bigger proportion of the population than the number of Oromo. And Holo. But the people who were doing the killing were singing as they were doing the killing. And they were singing, "This is the day the Anwaks died." Now, that would give the impression of intent to destroy in part the Anwak population, whereas the killings of Oromo, although they've been greater in number, in absolute number, nobody has ever expressed the intention to remove the Oromo from Ethiopia.
How about the characterizing
Because they're Oromo. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep. But I mean, the OPDO are part of the government. You can use the word politicide, if you like, but because the OLF, but still, I still maintain that
Yeah, I'm gonna. I got you. The last question, and then I'm gonna just say a few words, and then we're gonna wrap it up.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, very persuasive. Just want to make two comments. And the first is, as Professor Truman said, there is a more authoritative definition of genocide in the 1948 Convention. Actually, it doesn't include political group as subject. But the Ethiopian Penal Code includes political group as a part of genocide, which is higher than actually the UN Convention, and the Red Terror trial is a genocide trial. So there is a genocide case in Ethiopia where they committed the Red Terror crime. So the important factor is, as you have said rightly, it is an expression of intention.
So maybe the statement you quoted on the, what was that? Yeah, that comes close to,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
that comes close to genocide as a political group. And the other point is on the risk of genocide you mentioned on the data. I think something in there does disservice to your argument.
Where
Right, hey, look, Ethiopia is higher than Somalia, higher than Nigeria, higher than Uganda, Rwanda, Congo, anything. So what does that show? What that shows is that it is a potential for genocide or instability, as you have rightly said, to imply that the government has something to do still. So the risk, where does the risk for genocide or instability is coming from? Is it coming from the government or from the centrifugal forces or centripetal forces that are conflicting in Ethiopia? I suppose, I think there is an evidence or some agenda from the mainstream, or I don't know, maybe not mainstream, but the established force that claims that we are in the brink of collapse.
But if you excuse me, Ethiopia has been on this list for a long time. This is not the first list. Red Terror was counted as genocide in this list. Now this one, I don't know what they use, but they use different factors to get these figures.
they use time series data over
Yeah.
30 years or something
Yeah.
like that.
So, but the point I'm trying to make is, whose agenda is served by forwarding the ideas that Ethiopia is in the brink of collapse or instability? Who is going to benefit from that argument? Who is most likely to propose that argument? I think we should look at it that. We should look at that.
I think it's
That's worth looking.
Mokwane's point is, you may be we may be saying as Oromos that we are at the risk of genocide, but the government is saying also, I'm looking as a government, I'm a stabilizing force. I know that because there are different contending groups within Ethiopia, the Oromos, the Amharas, the Somalis, and the Tigrayans, contending forces. Unless there is a stabilizer from the top, these guys are going to eat each other out. So there is this, the potential to genocide, and that's exactly their argument in 2005.
Yeah,
And
there's
so we have to be, we have to be very careful. You may be the government may be quoting the same thing.
I don't think
I
I don't think like the government will have a very genuine case, like for example compared to the Anuak, if you're quoting Interhamwe while you're controlling the largest army on the continent, nobody's going to take you seriously. You could play on fear and do stuff, but
Exactly.
genocide
is committed.
They do use that.
Yeah.
I recognize it's good.
Habtamu,
at
the literature says genocide is committed by state. In fact, all those who are accused of genocide are states, because that's the capacity to do that.
The Tutsi, and Tutsi, and
Yeah, but
I think there is a human rights dimension to that.
let me give the last word for him. Then we're gonna wrap it up because some people have to go back to their.
To build on what Professor Mokoya said, the fact that some individuals committed genocide, but the government didn't bring those people for the justice, is attributable to the government. So in one way or another, the state or the government doesn't escape those kind of
accusation.
Regarding the scale of violations that Dr. Truman said might not amount to acts of genocide, I wonder if there is another alternative to build a case, because here what we need is establishing a case that brings international criminal liability of individual perpetrators, right? So if that's the case, I think genocide is a very strict, has strict elements to establish than like other crimes, international crimes, like crime against humanity. I mean, if you take crime against humanity, it has the same scale of responsibility, but it's more easier to prove than proving genocide.
Right, exactly.
It's very difficult to prove genocide. So crime against humanity, we have those discrimination and acts of persecution. I think if you consider in implementation the possibility of building the kind of crime against humanity, I recommend that.
It's a good comment.
Yeah, so I'll go with the genocide concept, but not in a very political way of playing the card that, for example, medicine plays, the Hamway thing. But you could look at the concept and see, and actually stretch the concept further without lying, and look at what happens. It doesn't have to be wrong. Anyone or other people or combined number of people. So there's a possibility for doing that. And my own focus is on prevention. So we don't have to wait until it happens. So
Okay.
risk warnings are very important.
Thank you so much, Habtamu. It's a good way of concluding the conference, and see human rights, and we move into issues of genocide, because that's a cumulative effect of the thing that we need to kind of watch and avoid. I think I'm not going to make a long speech of concluding remarks. I think we have been in this, and one thing that I was going to say is, for those of you who have stuck with us until the last minute, thank you for doing that, and I hope we all gained something out of this 2 days deliberation and conversation, and listening to these people who have traveled from very far places, and I thank them for doing that. I thank everybody who have spoken and who have commented in this, and this is a dialogue. This is the kind of conversation that we need to have, I think, to move the agenda for all of us, for all, not only the Oromos. I think this conversation needed to expand, even though the Oromo Studies Association is, we have what we gave ourselves as a mandate, as a mission, is to bring the the neglected Oromo history, neglected Oromo culture, neglected Oromo economic and political interests in the past, to bring that to the forefront. And that is what OSA has been doing for the last 25 years, and we continue to do that. And just as a plug, another conference is coming up in July, where we focus on basically an extension of this kind of conversation, which is from the Oromo struggle from where to where, what are the issues, the complexities of that, and then we have another series of papers to be presented. As I said again, thank you, and stay tuned for any of the new conferences and research papers that we are putting out in our website, www.oromostudies.org. We put some things, an announcement there as well. And also, for those of you who are interested for a new, at least for this kind of conferences, we have Oromo Studies Association puts out the Journal of Oromo Studies, where papers presented in this kind of forums are further refined, peer-reviewed, and also published. And consider publishing your own papers that you have presented here, and by refining it further, and again, after being reviewed by editorial board, and so that's another higher level. So I just want to thank you for all for coming, and thank you for everything.